Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join us in the wild landscape of Scotland. And for today's adventure we're once again joined by Highlander 87 out here. And for today's adventure we've come to visit an ancient abandoned structure, folks. And it is an old souterrain, which is a crazy old Iron Age structure, an underground structure originally. And in the last video we went to visit the Carlungy Souterrain, and this souterrain here is actually also in the Carlungy area, probably about 2 miles or something along the road. So is this one called Ardestie? Yes. This is the Ardestie Souterrain, folks. So yeah, let's go and take a look. It's incredible to see these ancient historical sites and see what's left from a time so long ago when the world around these sites was so different. You can just imagine before agriculture and before the land was tamed, how these places may have looked. And it is just crazy to think of that, the Iron Age, folks. And yeah, there may have been a little settlement here that this souterrain was actually part of. The theories of these places is obviously judged from what the people have found around them when they've been excavating them or doing their research, but a lot of the stuff with these places is so long ago, it is just theories often. And yeah, look at this, folks, it's harvest time in Scotland, and look at this wheat here, almost ready to be cut, and I can see there's actually combines and stuff going in the far field. So check it out, folks, we're now within the lands of this ancient structure, and just imagine how this may have been at that ancient time, 2,000 years ago. And apparently within here there is a fire bowl, according to that sign, and also these drainage lines were put in at a later time to help with drainage after a wet time in the land or whatever. So the sign was saying, but look at this, these structures are ancient. At one time there would have been a small entrance coming in. Often the theory goes that the entrance may have been within the houses of the nearby structure, and then there's other theories where there may have also been entrances from the land itself without going into a building, but these would have been fully covered with a small door and then big stones over the top of my head here. The walls were carved around, getting narrower at the top, and then the big stones would have been laid over the top. So probably the original ground height would have been far lower than what we are seeing here. Yeah, it's super interesting to see, eh? Would this be where the entrance was round here potentially, or one of the entrances? Wow, this is super interesting. Look at the shape of this, folks. See, you wouldn't know if things had been changed and developed after a few years, because if you consider how ancient these sites genuinely are, like 2,500 years old. Yeah, look at this, it's got this interesting little bit. It said something about a fire pit or whatever, and you can just imagine maybe if there was a house here, the fire pit may have been on the floor of the house, and then underneath also the floor of the house would have been their storage with like the grain or their wheat, maybe even the animals and stuff stored in there overnight. At the time of the wolves and stuff on the land, folks, just imagine how savage it was. Yeah, that's interesting. See what that may actually be. Another section below our feet. That's what that looks like to me. Because as we've seen with other souterrains, folks, on our adventures, there's loads of like little tunnels and it's a complete labyrinth under the ground. And it's amazing how much they constructed back at that time. See, some of this may have been built at different times, I reckon, here. Because ancient like Roman brooches and stuff were found at a nearby site here, and it just goes to show, I would reckon bits like this are built in more recent times, maybe 2,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago, or in that time frame, whereas the older site will be the first original souterrain.
2,800 years old.
Yeah, because this doesn't match anything else at the other souterrains, but I can clearly see it has been an ancient thing that's been built as well, with these little entrances and stuff.
It's weird how that doesn't have a stone floor, eh?
Yeah, see, this here just looks even newer. This is definitely non-original here to this site, I would say. These have just been laid here It is interesting to analyse it, but you can clearly see this is not built like the structure of the proper souterrain that's been built, folks. So I'm thinking this souterrain must have been a lot bigger, and there must still be stuff under this field. Because I reckon that this is signs of a more modern civilization which has been on the site of the more ancient civilization settlement. See, the original souterrain doors do often look similar to this, but the thing is, the original souterrain maybe went in here, like the original tunnel, if you don't consider any of this boulders which has been laid here. But another thing, there's a lot of stone being taken from here, because the big slabs and stuff that used to cover these sites, there's no sign of them anywhere. And often when builds were, like new houses or buildings or projects were getting done, at a certain time stones were taken from things like this as a bit of a quarry, because at a certain time stuff like this didn't actually mean anything, didn't have a historical value to a lot of folk. So that's probably how there's no like big flat stones and stuff here anymore. But I reckon this souterrain most likely is under the ground in various areas here that we just can't see anymore. But it is incredible to see what is left and document it on the channel, because we've literally never been here on the video, and it is cool as we come to theorise of the history and just to see what is left from these ancient times. And over here we can actually see the North Sea in the distance, and just think, when the original civilization was settled here, the view they must have also seen out to the North Sea and up to the River Tay estuary, leading on to like the Money Feith area and stuff. Yeah, wow, this is just incredible, folks, to see this old structures and imagine how it was and how it's even been over the years. And I do believe around here it looks to me like there's more under the ground at this section. See, an interesting thing, that two stones at the far end would correspond with this being like a more under the ground, but these ones here look like they've just been laid in like a path. So this may have been one of these little side rooms like we've seen with the other souterrains. Ken how there's tunnels and things lead through, but never have I seen one, Ken, where it's like that with those little stones. It is interesting though to see how folk may have lived at a certain time in Scotland, folks, and this is a sign here of what it may have been like. Just think, it may have even been 1,000 years ago and it's still so ancient. A room like that may have actually been big enough for them. And then other places like this, maybe at that time the stones were still over here and they still used it as storage. I'm keeping half an eye open at the sides for any like graffiti which was done at an ancient time, because previously on an adventure we found a snake carved into the early souterrain roof. That was one of the coolest finds that we've had on the channel, folks, because literally that's like graffiti from 2,500 years ago, and it's like mad that we can share ancient history like that on the channel here. And it's mad that that sort of history is within the lands of Scotland here. Thousands of years ago there was settled civilizations here. So check out these rocks and boulders, folks, and just think how long ago that was actually laid there. Think about what the person was wearing that was actually laying that as well. Probably clothes that was made from animals that were also grazing in pastures around this site. Probably leather or even wool or whatever from their sheep. Everything would have been used and everything would have been kept for a key reason. Maybe even through the cold winter nights the sheep were kept in areas like this. And safe. It was probably like a safe area for the animals, but also a warm area. Maybe the heat from the animals below the house used to put the warmth up into the house. Super cool to see. But yeah, I think that is an interesting older structure on the surface there. Not as old as the souterrain, but I believe this circle of stones here is just maybe like 1960s or something, like they've done that. So there we are, folks, the Ardestie Souterrain. And the word souterrain apparently is a French word meaning underground. And that's basically the secret underground history of Scotland that we're documenting on the channel from such an ancient time that they're not actually sure exactly why they were here and what they were used for. But all the theories are out there, obviously, for storage and safekeeping of items under their house. Maybe they had enough food for a whole community kept safely. And it's super interesting, like, to theorise and to think of it, and even to bring you that on the channel. Yeah, what a mad adventure it's been. Another crazy 2,500-year-old structure. And just think, back then, like, I don't even know what way they would have approached the site. There wouldn't have been roads probably or anything, but it's just, we don't even know. Right folks, that's us just about back to the car, so I'm going to end this one here. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye from me, goodbye from Highlander87. Remember and check him out on YouTube if you haven't already. And yeah, we're ending it here. See you soon.